I'm Lucy Joyce and I'm a wildlife artist.
I'm Chris Stafford, and this is Art, the podcast where we get up close and personal with women from around the world of visual arts. This is Season 2, Episode 32. My guest this week is the British wildlife artist Lucy Joyce. Lucy's painstaking attention to detail is her signature on portraits of a variety of animals. Her artistry is crafted from photographic images and, in some cases, her own compositions, as she meticulously accounts for every hair and whisker. Lucy was born in Northampton in 1979, the oldest of two children. She has a younger brother, Robert. Her mother, Jackie Smith, is a part-time seamstress, and her father, Brian, was a precision engineer in motorsport. Lucy completed her GCSE and A-levels at Chenderett School in Oxfordshire, including 2 GCSEs in art and A-level art, before working in print and design. She then attended Southampton Solent University, where she earned a degree in marketing design. Lucy met her husband at uni, and upon graduation the couple spent a year working in Canada before returning to the UK. After the birth of her 2 sons, Lucy returned to her art and built a clientele for pet portraits. In 2016, she became a full-time artist and now has commissions for her wildlife and pet portraits that extend far into next year. Lucy lives near Newbury in Berkshire with her husband Simon, 2 sons Jack and Charlie, and 2 Cocker Spaniels. Lucy, welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
Well, wildlife artist, pet painter as well. You do so many different things and wonderful animal portraits. And you must be an animal lover.
Oh, we've always had pets for as long as I can remember. And we have, in our house now, we have 2 dogs, a cat and 2 snakes. Each boy has got their own snake. So we've got a corn snake and a royal python.
So they're pretty well contained, I would imagine, with having these other pets around. There's no risk of them getting loose.
Usually. We did have one escape a few weeks ago, but we found him pretty swiftly, luckily.
All right. Well, you know how we love to hear about pets and the animals in people's lives on this show, because often we have them as children and that shapes what we have as we get older as well. So there were always children, there were always pets in your dogs and cats as a child, wasn't there?
Oh, yes, we always had cats growing up. So, very used to having animals around. And then the boys had their snakes from quite young, and we got a kitten. And then I started doing pet portraits, and we hadn't really considered getting a dog. But after a few years of drawing pet portraits, which are obviously mostly dogs, I just said to my husband, I can't keep drawing these beautiful faces anymore without having one of my own. So then we got Coco, and then last year we got Red. So they're now 4 and 1.
So what did you have as a child then? You said just cats. Were there no dogs? Were there horses?
No horses. No, just cats growing up. Oh, and a hamster.
Let's not forget the hamster.
Everybody has to have a hamster, yeah.
So it was a natural progression for you then, was it, to actually be painting animals?
Not really. It kind of happened accidentally. I didn't draw or paint for many, many years. So I left school and I worked and I had my children. And I stopped doing any art really when I was about 18. And then I actually, it's really quite silly. I bought an adult colouring book and I started doing that one afternoon and realised that I just wanted a blank piece of paper and some coloured pencils and to just draw something, anything. So I got a picture of a butterfly, I drew the butterfly, and my husband was like, "Oh, that's actually quite good." And I just carried on drawing anything and everything, just sketched away every day pretty much. And it wasn't until I drew my mum's cat that she put the photo of the cat drawing on Facebook. And I've been fully booked for pet portraits ever since she did that.
That's extraordinary, isn't it? How it came about. Well, if you listen to the show, and I know you've listened to the show, that we do like to take you all the way back to your childhood to hear how it all began, really, in terms, of your background. You were born in 1979 in Northamptonshire. Whereabouts in Northamptonshire?
Well, I was born in Northampton. We lived in a little village outside of Northampton.
Whereabouts were you living at the time?
Near Towcester. I don't know if you know it.
What was the name of
the name of the village? Bugbrook was the name of the village, but that was when I was very, very small. And then we moved to Towcester, and then we moved again. So we sort of moved around that area quite a lot.
And what were your earliest memories then with all the moving?
I don't really know. We were always in the same sort of area. And my mum was at home with me. My brother came along a lot later. So there's a 7-year gap between me and my brother. My dad worked at Silverstone Circuit. So we had to stay in the area locally so that he could get there for work. And I spent a lot of my young life at Silverstone Circuit. So I was around motor racing a lot when I was little. That was a big part of our life.
Yes, I imagine it would be. And he was a precision engineer in motorsport, I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. So any of that rub off on you? Were you interested in cars?
Oh, I love to see them. I don't really know anything about cars, but I like to see them, and I like to watch the racing, and I still watch the Formula One, and everybody in the family still watches. Unfortunately, we don't have my dad anymore. But everybody still likes to watch the racing. In terms of what rubbed off on me, I think he was a precision engineer, so obviously everything had to be very precise and perfect. And I think my dad was a perfectionist, so I think if you look at my artwork, perhaps that's where that comes from.
Yeah, that's interesting, that connection. Well, I'm wondering if you were drawn to any other types of drawing, like architectural or any precision drawing, because it has translated so well to animals. Was there ever a time when you were younger that you were interested in drawing anything else?
Yes, when I was a kid, I would draw anything, houses or landscapes, or it wasn't just animals. I would draw anything and everything, and I would make things. I was very arty. I did 2 art GCSEs at school because they allowed me to, which was lovely. And then I did an art A-level. And actually, I think I would have gone on to do, if I'd have gone to university from school, I would have gone on to do something like graphic design or architecture. But in order to do that sort of degree, you had to do an art foundation course. And I'd signed up for the art foundation course, and I went to the interview, and they were not very nice in the interview, which was a bit off-putting. I think they were probably reading out the week, which is, and quite rightly so. I was floundering a bit and didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I think the art foundation course seemed a little bit too creative for me. I just wanted to draw and paint, and I like to draw and paint what I could see, quite realistically. And I think sometimes I think maybe I should have gone through the art foundation course to get to the graphic design degree or something like that, because I think that probably would have suited me quite well. But I actually chose a different path. I chose to go to work, and I went to work for a couple of years instead.
Were your parents steering you in any way, or did they leave you to make your own choices?
No, they left me to make my own choices. I think they were possibly a bit disappointed at the time that I wasn't aiming for the university place. But they always supported me no matter what I wanted to do. And actually, I went and I worked for 2 years and then decided to go to university. So I did get there in the end. I just took a little bit of a different route.
Tell me what you did then when you left high school. Was that secondary Baptist school?
Yeah, secondary.
Which school was that?
A school called Chenderet in a village called Middleton Cheney near Banbury, Oxfordshire.
So what did you decide to do then when you were in high school? Because you could have gone either way, as you said, but you chose to go to work. Yeah,
I did. I thought at the time, I'll just go and I'll learn on the job. So actually, an opportunity came up at a print and design shop locally. And so they gave me some graphic design training, and I spent a year with them being trained in all things print and design and marketing and graphic design. I learned a lot. And then I spent a year working for a training course, a training company. And they ran training courses in sales skills, marketing skills, like professional training courses into corporates. And they sent me on lots of training courses, which was great. So again, I learned a lot in that job. But I think 2 years of doing those jobs, I gained so much confidence. I think I wasn't ready to go to university at 18. And then 2 years of working, I gained so much confidence that then I said to my mum and dad, I think I'd like to go to university now. And they were really pleased. So I chose a course and off I went to uni.
And there you were. But you also spent some time in Canada. Where did that fit in?
So Canada. So I went to university. I did my 3-year degree in Southampton. And then I met my now husband, Simon, at university. And we met in the snowboarding club. And he had his idea was to leave university and go and do a ski season, like a gap year after university. And I said, well, why don't we go and spend a year in Canada? Because you can get a year's student visa when you finish university, and go and have a year in Canada, and we can do the ski season and the summer season. So we spent a year in Canada, but that was touristy jobs. We just, we worked in hotels and restaurants and jobs like that, which was amazing. I mean, it's such a beautiful country. It was very difficult to come home. So I came back and I worked. First of all, I did some time in recruitment, which wasn't for me. And then I moved to a publisher who were based in Winchester. They were a publisher of mind, body and spirit illustrated books, really beautiful books. And I worked for them for a few years until we had our first child.
What kind of things were you doing there then? Were you applying your art degree or your art interests in the jobs?
A little bit, I suppose, more so in the publisher, obviously not in the recruitment agency, but in the publisher, because it was a small business, you got involved in lots of elements, which was really nice. And I was involved in the sales and marketing environment. And although I wouldn't be designing anything, you'd still be involved in seeing the process.
So I'm wondering what kind of a child we would have found Lucy to be. Were you a little bit shy, perhaps, as a young child?
Maybe a little bit. A little bit shy.
What kind of things were interesting you? What were you curious about as a young child?
I spent a lot of time drawing, and art was a massive part of my growing up. And even when I was doing my GCSEs, I remember spending all my time on my bedroom floor, creating stuff and drawing and painting. And that's what I mostly filled my time with, I guess. up until the age of 18. What else did I like as a child? I mean, obviously the usual.
And you inherited some of this, though. I understand your paternal grandfather was an artist. What did you know about his work?
Oh, very little. My dad's dad, he died quite young. So most of what I've heard is from my dad's older brother, who remembers more than my dad does. And he says that he was a perfectionist. He would often screw up his drawings and throw them in the bin. But he said they were really good. We couldn't understand it. And apparently he went and he did an evening course at college. So they lived in Northampton. My dad grew up in Northampton. And he went and signed up for an evening course. So he just enjoyed drawing as a hobby, but apparently nothing ever got framed.
But you have some cousins who are also artistic.
I do. I have a cousin who lives in New Zealand. So a lot of our family moved to New Zealand and there's a lot of family in New Zealand. And my cousin, Simon, he paints.
So you've got it in the family. Now, what about your children, your two boys, Jack and Charlie? They're both teenagers now. Have they inherited any of your art interests?
No, I can't get them to hold a pencil. No, they can draw, I mean, everybody can draw. They can draw, but they wouldn't choose to draw or paint or do. I've tried. I've asked them to come and draw with me. They're not interested. They're interested in skateboarding and the Xbox, mountain biking. I like being outside, I can't complain at that.
Now, you mentioned that you met Simon, your husband, whilst you were at university. When and where did you get married?
So we met at university. We went to Canada for a year and we came back and we went back to Southampton because we'd met in Southampton and we liked it. So we moved back to Southampton. And we got married a couple of years later in Northamptonshire, near where I grew up.
And is your husband at all artistic?
No, but he's got a good eye. So he's quite useful because he'll tell me what he thinks looks good and what doesn't. But mostly he's complimentary. But yeah, he's good with design and he's good with the house, what kind of renovations will look good on the house and things like that.
So you now have been a professional since 2016, and does that mean you are working in your studio 5-6 days a week? How disciplined are you, or is it driven by commissions? It sounds like you're really popular and in demand for commissions. Yes, yeah, it is very commission driven. To start with, I was purely a pet portrait artist.
I pretty much work, I would say, every other minute that I'm not cooking or cleaning or doing the groceries or taking the kids somewhere. So it's really hard to tell you how much I work because I just fit it in around the family life, which is the beauty of it. It's so flexible. You can pick it up and put it down to fit in what's going on in life. You're actually going by presumably something like a photograph if it's a pet portrait or wildlife. Yes, absolutely. My work is so finely detailed that I do need to work from photographs. And as I say, it started with the pets. So, I was always given photos and I would draw pets and that was how it started. And I didn't really do much other than drawing the pets to start with. So I must have done that for maybe 4 or 5 years. And then I brought in the paints. I did start drawing wildlife in pencil as well alongside the pets. And then when I started painting, I started to do more wildlife, but still, again, from photos generally. I'll either pick a photo that I really like. I just know instantly when I see a photo whether I want to draw it or paint it. But sometimes I will make up the painting from many photos. I'll take lots of inspiration from all sorts of places and then build what I want. And that takes up, I find that takes up a lot of energy, much more than, with the pets, you're given a photo, so it's there in front of you and that's what you do. But when you're creating something from scratch, it's a whole different process. But it's nice to be able to work on both.
Yes, obviously that photographic reference is important in many ways. I'm wondering if you take your own photos too and work off those.
I have done. Yes, absolutely. I've got a few drawings that I have taken the reference photos for. So I did a tiger years ago, actually, when I first started. I took a photo of a tiger at Marwell Zoo. Unfortunately, I haven't been on safari or anywhere further afield to be able to photograph in the wild. But it takes such a long time to get a photo that you want to draw, and there are so many amazing photographers out there that I tend to do a lot of searching online, on Instagram. A lot of the wildlife photographers, as long as you ask permission, are very happy for you to reference from their photos. So that's really useful. But it is nice when you've taken the photo yourself. I did a funny thing happened actually with my giraffe painting, Century. I took the photo for that and I painted him. And when I sold the painting, the family said that they'd met this giraffe called Century at Cotswold Wildlife Park, and I said, "Oh, that's funny. I took the photo at the Cotswold Wildlife Park, and actually, it turned out it actually was Century." The Century's keeper got in touch with me and said, "I think that you've painted our giraffe called Century. Would you like to come and meet him?" And so we went, and actually, the family who bought the painting also came along as well. We all went along and met Century, which was lovely.
We've had wildlife photographers on the show here, so maybe there's some there that will inspire you too. So scroll through our Instagram.
Oh, I've no doubt. I will do.
Now, you're working, as you say, in pencil, in pastel and paint. Which kind of paint do you prefer, Lucy?
So I started in acrylic, partly because I'm so impatient and acrylic dries really fast. But recently I wanted to give oils a go. They do just have a beautiful quality. So I painted my first oil painting earlier this year, and I do love working in the oils. It's completely different to the acrylics, but there is something particularly lovely about them. So I think I will just continue working in both.
I'm wondering, though, when you said you're impatient, often we find as artists that it slows us down and makes us more patient, makes us be still in the moment. Do you think your art has changed you in any way? What would you say you've learnt from being an artist?
I definitely feel more balanced when I'm sat drawing or painting. And like you say, it definitely slows you down. And it's the only place that I do have patience, really, because people are always commenting on my Instagram posts and saying, "Well, you must have so much patience to draw so finely detailed." And I think it's really funny because I'm not a patient person at all. I think all of my family can vouch for that. But that is the one time that I will sit quite happily for hours and hours. It's definitely a happy and calm place. It's therapy, I think, art in any format.
Quietens the mind, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yeah, absolutely. And I feel very lucky to do a job that is that meditational.
And I'm back with the British wildlife artist Lucy Joyce. Does your art have to be commercial, Lucy? Or would you do it anyway, even if you didn't sell it?
I think I would do it anyway. It's difficult to know because when I started drawing in 2016, so 8 years ago, I just enjoyed drawing, and I spent a few months drawing everything. And I just enjoyed it. And I set up the Instagram account and just called it Mrs. Joyce Draws, just because, I was Mrs. Joyce, and it sort of rolled off the tongue, and it ended up sticking. But I had no idea that so many people would appreciate what I was doing back early then. So I was just enjoying drawing, and then along came the commissions. And of course, that's then pushed me forwards to continue drawing. And I do love drawing the animals. I think I do get asked a lot to draw other things. I've done a couple of landscape commissions, which were lovely to do. And I get asked to draw people, children especially, a lot, but I don't do humans.
And that's because?
Perhaps because I'm not very good at it. I don't know. I didn't spend very much time doing it. I practiced on my own children, and it just didn't look quite right. So yeah, I didn't continue with that. But I just love drawing animals.
Has anything about how you've developed as an artist and become so successful, Lucy, has any of that surprised you?
Oh, it all surprises me. I mean, I can't quite. If somebody had told me when I was a child that I would be paid to draw, I'd have thought they were mad. At no point when I was growing up did I think that you could be an artist as a job. So it was never, when I left school, it was never, going to do the Art Foundation course was not in order to do fine art or become an artist. I liked to draw, but that was a hobby. And I, at that time, wanted to study something vocational. So if I'd have studied the Art Foundation, it would have been to go on and do graphic design or something like that. It surprises me all the time that I can earn money out of my drawings. It's amazing. But social media has really been to thank for that. As much as we all love it or hate it, and there are very many negative aspects to social media. It does get people's art out there, and for sharing, it's amazing.
When you were growing up, were you exposed to art galleries and art books and museums and things like that, Lucy, to educate you with some art history, maybe before you went to university? I'm thinking now, when you were much younger, did your parents take you around to galleries and museums?
I don't think they did. No, I don't think we really did galleries. And I mean, we did museums. We did the usual museums, and you'd go to London, and I'm not sure we went to any galleries in London when I was little. What my parents did was they brought me art materials. They knew I loved it, and so a new box of watercolors, or when I discovered watercolors in tubes, I remember that it was really exciting. I was probably about 9 years old. So they encouraged me by giving me all the resources that I could want to do my art. Galleries came when I was at school and I was studying at GCSE and A level. So we visited. We went to Paris. We went to Amsterdam. We obviously went to London. We visited many of the main galleries. And obviously we studied art history. I'm not sure I can remember any of it though now.
Well, I was going to ask you, who was impressing you? Who were your favourite artists historically?
Oh, that's hard, because I just wanted to create art at that time, and I wasn't a very good student in terms of listening to the art history. I remember going to the galleries. It was such a long time ago. I remember things like seeing Monet's water lilies and being like, wow, they're amazing. I mean, they're huge for a start. I don't know. I just wanted to draw.
Do you still go down to the National Gallery or National Portrait Gallery in London?
I went a couple of months ago and I loved it. I probably appreciated it way more than when we went when I was at school. And I'm probably more drawn to the Impressionist work, funnily enough. I do like to see the old realistic type work, because obviously I can appreciate it. I want to get up really close actually and see how did they do that. You know, you can always tell the artists in the galleries, can't you? Because they've got their noses right up against the paintings, looking at the brushstrokes close up. My style is to draw realistically. I draw what I see, whether it's from still life or from a photo.
And do you think it's important, given your journey through art and your education and your childhood, do you think it's important that your children have an art education of some sort by visiting these galleries and museums, and at least to have some foundation for appreciating art?
I would like them to. Getting them to go to anything like that now they're 16 and 14 is really hard work. They'll come and see. I've had some paintings in a local gallery the last couple of years because I've done open studios with our local open studios group, which means that you put some of your work in a local gallery. We live near Newbury in Berkshire, so it was a really nice exhibition, and the kids came along to that. So that's probably the most amount of experience of art galleries that they've had lately.
Tell us a bit more about the galleries that you would be in, and maybe workshop. Do you teach at all?
No, I don't teach. I get asked all of the time. Will you run tutorials? And I've been asked to teach in person locally. I don't know how to explain what it is that I do. I just make it work on the canvas or the paper. I don't really feel there's any method to my drawing or painting. So I don't know how I would even begin to teach somebody to do it. I don't know. Sometimes I think it would be nice to teach, and I've actually done a few sessions with some children. Just sort of one-to-one drawing sessions, which were fun. How to draw an eye or a dog or things like that. But also I'm really slow, so it takes me about a week to draw a dog.
I was wondering about that because it is so detailed. I mean, that maybe sounds like a long time to some artists, but given the level of detail in your work, I can imagine it's so meticulous. It's not something that can be rushed. Yeah,
absolutely. I give my pet portraits a week, really, and some of my bigger paintings will be over months. So yes, it's slow going, and there's lots of little tiny brushstrokes. But that's it. Do you know? Sometimes I try to paint a bit looser. I really admire painters. I admire lots of artists who do beautiful paintings with a few brushstrokes and just get the light just right. I think it's amazing. And I try sometimes to be a bit looser with my work, but I always come back to putting in detail. I can't help myself.
Yeah, it is an admirable trait, isn't it, when you can be that loose in the artwork? I totally get that. Now, do you always paint indoors and draw indoors, or do you take your work outside at all?
No, always inside.
You need that controlled environment.
Yeah, and because I'm so slow, and because I pick it up and put it down, so to find a session where I could go and be outside for a few hours would be really difficult. And all of my inspiration is coming from photographs, really, which I have on the computer next to me.
And you mentioned that your husband Simon, he has a good eye. So is he allowed to be the first critique of your work?
Always.
So in terms of your daily routine, then, you were really fairly flexible, I suppose. And you talked about being so commission-driven, Lucy. How much work would you have backing up? I mean, that's pressure, isn't it, when you have commissions as well? How do you cope with all of that?
I think because I've been doing it for quite a few years now, I'm pretty good at working out how long each commission's going to take. So, as I say, I tend to book one portrait in with a week's time, but then I have to factor in the kids' holidays, and also now that I do some wildlife alongside, I have to factor that into my diary as well. So I do take less portrait commissions now than I used to, and I work on both alongside. But but I do have a waiting list that I've been fully booked for this year since about November time, and a huge waiting list for next year. So I don't know whether I'll get to everybody on my waiting list for next year. So I shall have to start planning my diary pretty soon. So yes, there is the constant pressure, but I know how to manage the time now.
How do you cope with that pressure of having to deliver? And presumably when you take it on a job, you give that customer a timeline. So there's expectations. Yeah, I do. And I suppose it's from I've worked in so many sales departments and marketing departments and small businesses, that I'm really particular about my timescales. So whatever I tell the customer will happen. It won't ever run over. It doesn't really matter what's going on in my life. I will always make sure that I reach my deadline. So I just know how much I can fit in. I suppose I do give quite a good buffer, just to make sure. But and if I have to work late, if I have to work at the weekends, then I do. I often do. I probably work a full working week, just little bits in the day, little bits at weekends and bits in the evenings. And so the family doesn't mind then if you have to retreat to your studio in the evening?
No, we have quite a good setup. My husband does Ironman triathlons, and so he spends a lot of time training. The children now are quite happy to be left to their own devices. So I think they're actually quite happy when I'm at my easel, because I'm leaving them to do whatever they want to do. So no, everybody's happy doing their own things. So really, holidays for us is the quality time, because we're actually all back together. When we're at home, we're all off in different directions, doing different things.
Are you sporty at all?
I've always enjoyed exercise. So I used to do a lot more. I used to cycle and swim a lot and run a lot and go to the gym. And then I got the dogs, and now of course I've got 2 Cocker Spaniels. I have to walk them every day. So I get outside for at least an hour's walk every day. So I suppose I'm probably quite fit from walking.
But no Ironman for you then?
No Ironman for me. I think they're all crazy.
Now, given the nature of your work and the immense output that you generate, Lucy, I'm wondering if there's a book in your future.
Oh, I don't know. It sounds like a lot of work.
But you already have the work. The back catalogue of your work is already there, right? It only has to be reproduced for publishing.
Well, maybe. I don't know. I hadn't really thought about that.
Are you a big book person? Are you a reader?
I am. I do love books, and I used to read a lot. And now I find, because I spend so much time doing art, any time that I would be sat on a sofa reading, I'm actually painting. So I don't read, but I do listen. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I listen to audio books, and I have box sets going on in the background. So I consume a lot of TV and books and podcasts.
Where does music fit in? Do you have music while you're working?
Not so much while I work, no, but I do love music. I like to dance, and we did a lot of clubbing as kids, a lot of Ibiza trips. So yeah, I do. I'm a house music fan. I do like dance music. I do like to listen to music here and there, but I don't put it on to work too. I actually quite like something that's giving me information or a story going on while I work.
Are you musical at all? Do you play anything?
No, I don't. I did as a kid. I had all the lessons, but no, everybody else in my family is musical. So my husband can play the guitar and the piano, and so can both of my kids. But that's definitely on his side of the family, not mine.
So do you sing? Do you join in?
No.
And you mentioned some of the local art galleries and you're involved with this. Is that something that you enjoy doing? Do you enjoy participating and showing your work locally?
It's not something I've done very much. So the only event I've taken part in is it's called the Insight exhibition, which is at the base at Greenham, which is a gallery just outside of Newbury. And it's as part of the Open Studios programme. So our local Open Studios is for West Berkshire and North Hampshire. And I've taken part last May and this May, 2 years in a row. So I open my own garden studio and invite people in for about 10 dates. I think I opened during May, and alongside that, the base at Greenham has this exhibition that all of the artists who participate can put in some work. So it's a lovely exhibition because there's just so much of so many different types of artwork, and for anybody who wants to visit the local Open Studios, it's a good starting place because they can go there, they can see all the different types of art from the different artists, and then they can pick and choose their favourites and go and see them in person.
Just going back to the books, I'm wondering if you've ever been asked to illustrate books.
No, I haven't. I don't really think of myself as an illustrator. No, I don't. I haven't been asked to do that. I have had a tutorial published in a book many years ago it was a how to draw birds book, but that's as much as I have done, and that was a long time ago.
So, looking to the future, then, given that you're in such demand, is this something you just can see yourself always doing, and it's something that you so enjoy, or are there other mediums in art that you want to explore?
I think that I will always do this. I can't ever see a time that I won't be drawing or painting animals. And I do like having the mix of both the pets alongside the wildlife. I've been asked to do more and more wildlife commissions as well, which has been really fun. And then sometimes I do the wildlife pieces that I choose to do and then hope they sell. Luckily, so far, I tend to sell the wildlife pieces fairly quickly, sometimes while I'm even still painting them, or soon after they're finished. So no, I enjoy drawing and painting the animals. I do like, as you know from our conversation, I do like challenging myself to try new things. So I started with the pencil and then I moved into pastels as well. And so I now do both. And then I moved to the paint. So I've tried acrylics and I work in oils as well now. So I do like to change things up and try different things. And I just bought a sketchbook, so I think I shall probably do some sketching as well, which will be quite fun because everything else I do tends to take such a long time. To get a sketchbook and be able to sketch a bit faster, I think will be quite fun to do alongside. So there's always new things. And I think when you look on Instagram and there's so many artists out there, it's hard not to be inspired by everybody that's out there.
Do you like the idea of going on safari somewhere and taking your sketchbook or maybe taking your easel?
Yes, one day we will do it.
But that would maybe be a different kind of inspiration, I would imagine, if you're just sketching and then have that kind of reference for your detailed work.
Yeah, I mean, that would be amazing. And I think just seeing wildlife in their natural habitat, there is just nothing like it. We lived in Canada for a year, and when we did finally see bears, it was just the best experience. There is nothing like seeing wildlife out in its own natural habitat. So I would love to.
Which has been the most challenging animal for you to draw?
I'm painting a horse at the moment and it's really difficult, but I think probably because this is one that I'm creating myself. I'm using many, many reference photos to help me sort of put this pose together, how I envision the horse to be. What else has been hard? I don't know.
You seem to find every hair on an animal somehow. It's extraordinary, the level of detail, Lucy. And obviously, it's so instinctive in you now. It's such a passion that I'm looking forward to what you will do in the future, because the world is your oyster. And I like the idea of you going on safari and doing some of your work au plein air. And there's lots of possibilities for your artwork, I think.
Yeah, it is. There's so much. There's so much inspiration out there, and there's, with the animal kingdom, I mean, it's enormous. So there's always endless inspiration.
Yes, well, the very best of luck with it. It's absolutely beautiful. And if anybody is listening has not found you on Instagram, as you say, they can find you at Mrs. Joyce Draws, and we'll put a link, of course, in our show notes to your Instagram and also to your website, because you have a lot of work on your website.
Yes, I do. Yes. Yeah. I'm on Instagram. Mainly Instagram is for my most current work, really. I am on Facebook and TikTok as well. And then my website is a good place for information too.
And there are videos of you working too.
Yes, I make a lot of reels for Instagram. Which I think has really helped my Instagram account grow. I quite like making the reels. They're quite fun to do.
Yes, they're fun to watch.
Thank you.
It is really beautiful, and long may you continue to enjoy it. And thank you for taking time to come on the podcast.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for asking me.
Don't forget to scroll down the show notes for links to Lucy's website and her social media, as well as the full transcript of this episode. You'll also find a link to our Instagram account where you can leave your comments, questions, and suggestions for guests. As you know, we always love to hear from you. And if there's a particular episode that you've enjoyed, don't forget to share that with a friend who you think might enjoy it too. My thanks again to my guest this week, Lucy Joyce, and as always, to you for listening. I know you have lots of choices, so we do appreciate it when you tune into the AART Podcast every week. And I'll be back next week when my guest will be the American photographer Jamie Beck. So I do hope you'll join me then.